guys, how's it going?
So it's come to the time that Krusty is going to move on to bigger and better things. It's a little sad, but also exciting at the same time. But it's moving on to a new home. And just give a quick little backstory on Krusty, to get people who are not familiar with the videos and everything that was put together on the truck. I've had it about 17 years, about 12 years ago, brought it in and did a restoration on it. It was rotted to death. The only thing that was attached was the driver's door. All the other gates were rotted off of it. The passenger's door had half a hinge holding it, all that kind of thing. So it's been all stitched back together, and then the new metal that was put on it was patina just to match the rest of the truck. The writing on the truck, you could not read it when I got it. It was all kind of covered with red oxide primer. You can kind of tell it said something in the front, but you couldn't see what any of the gates or the door said on it. So Goof Off and Scotch Brite took all of that off. See if I can find you some. You can see some right there still left behind. But that covered all the writing on it. My guess is a plumber, or a painter rather, had it after the lumber company, and he did not want to drive around with the writing on the truck, so he just kind of shot over it to cover it up. If you look on the inside of the truck, you can see all the gates have paint all running down it. I'll give you an example. Bottom of the gates, like I said, were all rotted out. I re-welded new metal back in there and then kind of aged it. The decking was all gone. You could throw a body in the back of the truck, it would have hit the ground. It was that bad. So all that's been replaced, and whatever I could save, I saved. So the outside skin all the way around is the original stuff, original paint and lettering. Well, it's been doing me very well. Put my antique bikes on the back of it for, again, the last 12 years or so, and it's been a great showpiece for me, but it is time for it to move on. We're gonna go back to the shop. I gotta go empty it out, start getting all my goodies out of it so that it can go to its new home, and maybe do a little bit more explaining there. Gotta get it loaded up on a trailer and drop it off. So now I get to have the pleasure of emptying it out from all the years of collecting stuff tucked away in its little corners and crevices. So the cab shouldn't be too bad. Not much room to really hide stuff in. There's a package tray shelf. It's got a bunch of junk packed up underneath there. Then up on the visor, there is just the paperwork for the truck, registration and insurance and that kind of stuff. We go get that out of there, but then where most of it's going to be is what's called the treasure chest. That's a space underneath the bed. And it's about 5 foot by 4 foot by about 18 inches tall. And it's pretty packed. And behind the seat, I was wondering where those small engine parts went. It's only been 7 years since I lost them. In this area is the treasure chest. This is where most of the stuff should be hidden. Rod that flips up. And this should have a little bit of everything. The VW bus cooler, spare gas for the bikes. I don't remember. Wheel bearings for this. Any self-respecting VW guy have a full assortment of tools and parts that he travels with. They have a little bit of weight to them. Try to move that a little better. In case you got to tow somebody off the road or get towed off the road, or bondage. Forget what that is. Mother Nature, never want to get wet. And deep in the bowels is, I think this one's parts also. Actually, it wasn't as bad as I thought. There's something else, the jack, wrapped up in the rag in there, and then a spare tire that's attached to the floor and bolted down. A little bit of sweeping out. I'm not going to wash the whole thing, but I can at least get the bug boogers off the windshield. There you go. Let's take a quick look at the business end of this. Originally this would have came with a 36 horse, and it has a 54, 50, I don't even know what you want to call it. It's a 1600 with 1641 jugs, and it's got ratio rockers on it. Gives it a little bit more, helps it hold the valves deeper open, allows it to breathe just a little bit better. And it's been decent in here. They're underpowered as they are with the this engine. You can imagine what it was like with the 36. So I still have the 36. It's out of, I think when I looked it up, a 57. The 59 36 horses had a problem with, I think it was oil pressure. They all kind of blew up. I actually think they had a recall on them, so it's kind of rare to find one that still has its original engine. But anyway, this got retrofitted in there. It's 12 volt, and it's done it quite well. It's held up fairly nice. It's geared low. It's in third gear. You're 20 miles an hour. You're in third gear already, so you can imagine how much it's screaming at with just a 4-speed at 55. Bus has what's called gear reductions on the end of it, or portal axles. So it's a regular Beetle setup, but then when it goes to the outer wheels, it runs to a gear reduction that knocks it down at probably about 20%. So say if a Beetle's running at 70 miles an hour, this could only do maybe 55 miles an hour for that same engine RPM. So it's great around town, and on the highway not so much, but does what it's supposed to. Another thing I liked that's cool about this truck is the gates drop down all the way around. It's got little latches on it, flip up, and it turns into a flatbed. This one's really good too, because when you flip it down, it has a step on it to help you get in it. So for loading it, it's awesome. I wish my regular pickup truck did that right now. Also makes it easy to back up too. Looks better with the gates up though, doesn't it? I had replaced the bed. The bed was all rotted out. It would have been like a corrugated metal, kind of stepped all the way through. They had wooden slats on it, and then in the wooden slats they had screws that were drilled through. So what happened was the wooden slats rotted out. The screws kind of got loose and fell out. And then water would go in because it was the lowest point, and it would take out the lower floor. That's why the lower section was totally blown out. So when I replaced it, I put all new beams going across on the inside. Probably should have showed you that earlier. And with that, sealed it up. I did a solid piece of metal on top, and there's no, everywhere is a plug weld. There's no moisture can get through down to the lower level anymore. And then I just did a bunch of tie downs. I hauled a bunch of bikes on this, so I wanted different places to be able to lock stuff down, so I just added all that. The gates, I said, were all rotted out. You can see where I stitched in 1x2 on all of it, and I'll let it age just to match the rest of the truck. So when I was building the bed of the truck, I actually kind of modified it a little bit more too. I got tired of winching stuff onto the backs of trucks and everything, so I'd like to go and put a little additions onto them, and this one was no different. Underneath the box, I just added a winch And that's all hooked into the electrical system of the truck. And then there was a bunch of metal framed out underneath to help support the winch from under the truck and give it some good support so it won't rip out. And then you just put the old antique toolbox on it. Wouldn't even know it's there. Am I gonna miss it? I sure am. There's certain things in your life that you go through that you put yourself into, not just purchasing and buying something, say, hey, look, I got a new truck and that kind of thing. It's when you put the physical labor into something, you bring something back. This was literally in a junkyard. At some point would have just gotten crushed and would have been gone altogether. And let me see if I can put this to be able to relate. Kind of a tough time in my life when I was doing this, when I bought it and then kind of was moving forward. I actually had a friend that passed away, and him and I were working on a couple of projects together. That was the Mustang, for those who kind of remember. I had a 67 Mustang and he had a Roadrunner. We were working on them together. And every time I went to go work on either the Mustang, and the family gave me the Roadrunner, I still have the Roadrunner now, the depressing, I don't know if I want to even call it depressing, the sadness of losing a friend, and when I had the capacity to go wrench with him, and you just enjoyed yourself, the camaraderie, kind of like the camaraderie that when you guys hang out with me and we're wrenching on something, it was that. But that went away. So when I went to go work on it alone, it just wasn't the same anymore. So I ended up doing some more work on the Roadrunner afterwards, but I just, I had to kind of snap out of the mood. And the Mustang I ended up selling just because of that same reason. I just couldn't carry that torch anymore. So that's where this truck kind of like jumped in the middle of that, and I was able to pick this up. You kind of search out for a new beginnings, and maybe that's what this truck was. At the time, I really didn't have that much, I wasn't that much into VWs. I grew up with them when I was younger. I worked in a VW repair shop from 15 to 20, 19, around there. So I knew them pretty well as far as doing repairs on them. And I just kind of got out of them. And plus that was some of my transportation at the time, at the younger age. So I got back into them and figured I'd just kind of relive some of that, and that's where this came along, and I started to get back into working on the VW stuff. And between this one and the red and white bus, which is right, you probably saw a little clip of it around the corner there, really kind of re-sparked my interest. And this is one of those jobs that you work on, one of those vehicles that you work on, that either you work on them and you get like halfway through and you start losing steam, and you just kind of like want to get it done, and you kind of are pushing to get it through, or you lose all steam and it gets put to the back burner and ends up being a basket case that somebody else buys 10 years down the line. I bought enough of them, and I've sold a few myself that I've done, hence the Mustang that's how that left. So this one was different though, because I don't know, it felt like you're repairing the vehicle and you're repairing yourself at the same time. So I kind of went and did that as I was bringing this back up. This truck was bad. Now you like, oh, you had to go fix that truck now, but back then it didn't have the value of what it does now. And the patina wasn't a thing back then. 17 years ago, it wasn't. Nobody was doing patina vehicles back then. You go to a show, people would be like, what is wrong with you? Insurance company wouldn't even insure them. They'd be like, is it all done and restored? Yeah, sure it is. All that has changed now. It's a totally different thing. But anyway, when I was working on this truck, every time I worked on it, the next morning I couldn't wait to get back out there and just kind of go back on it some more, or the next opportunity I had to go work on it, maybe a week later or whatever it was, just to go back, jump on it, and start welding up. And there was nothing left at the back of that truck. The truck was just pretty much naked. It had the skin going around it, but all the rails on the bottom were shot, all the rails on the top were shot, the gates were rotted off of it. There was no floor on the bottom, there's no floor on the top, the cab floor was gone on it. Again, and the only thing that was hooked up was the driver's door. Every other door was pretty much just rotted off of it. Even the gas door was rotted off of it, and they were just kind of like stuck on there, So bringing this one back every day, it just got more and more, to the point where it got complete. And keep myself going too, I didn't have a bunch of the writing was all covered up. So I'd work on the truck for a while. And if you lost a little bit of steam and you kind of wanted to revive the, rekindle the flame, I'd go over and okay, let's go do this door. Let's go clean it off with Goof Off and Scotch-Brite. Go see what's underneath there and uncover what it says. And that's what I would do as the process went along. So about once a week I would do a different section because I wouldn't know what any of the writing had said down any of the sides or anything. And it was really cool to have the reveal of that. And the truck, like, it's like a Christine coming back to life, you know, you're doing a wrenching on it. So that's where it is today. It's been served me really well. I put 10,000 miles on the truck or so at least. It's hard to say. It doesn't. I don't think the odometer works, or I never paid attention to it. So that's where it is. It's kind of got me through a tough time of mental emotions by just going out to the garage and doing some wrenching and enjoying it. It's a bit of a rant, but anyway, just give you a little of a hindsight of kind of what the vehicle meant to me. So it's, I don't like doing favorites and that kind of thing. I really don't like to list them as far as that, because it changes over time. You say, oh, this is my favorite color or my favorite food or something, but then a year later, you know, maybe that changes. Your food is now this is your favorite one. So I kind of come and go with that, but I definitely say it's in the top 5 of the things I've brought back to life, and probably one of the more important ones. But it's time for it to move on. All right, Brian's coming over shortly. We're gonna go get her ready, get her loaded up on the trailer. We're gonna go trailer it down to the drop-off point, and I'll take you along for that part of it too. This one's Lucy. I've had this one probably about the same time frame as Crusty, but it, you know, got the pretty treatment on this one. But it was pretty much the same scenario. It was all Bondo together, and nothing, had metal patch panels put on that were put on with rivets and that kind of thing. So all that got gutted out and welded new metal in and put together from yard sale repairs and attachments, like the door panels are from a yard sale, little Andy Warhol paintings from Sears that turned into door panels. This seat's a park bench, front seat, that kind of thing, and in the back everything's on the eclectic yard sale repairs, and the same amount of money is into this truck, like $3 grand on this one also, and it has also turned out quite well. It's holding up fairly well. But this guy, this one right here that says just campers, that's a lie. It's not a camper. But this is my newest acquisition. You have not seen it yet, but this is be for more upcoming videos. It is German. I'll give you some hints. And it is from the 50s, but it is not Volkswagen. So you can try taking some guesses, but that'll be for another day. And my partner in crime showed up.
Oh, I am a partner in crime, that's for sure.
What's your thoughts, sir?
Well, I'm gonna hate that I'm not able to come and see it every day anymore, but the story alone, from the first rusty crusty story at the beginning of everything to right now, that makes it worth it.
I was just talking about that a little while ago too. There's the history of it, and
Yeah.
one of the ones that I didn't drop the ball on and kept going because every morning you got up and wanted to go work on it more.
Yeah.
Let's get her loaded up. We're going to try getting it on there without putting the ramps out because we're lazy, and the ramps are tucked in the back of the truck, and we're two old broken down men that...
It's not that we're lazy, sir. It's that Krusty's a truck.
Okay.
Possibly. It's got lots of clearance, sir. Like a whole foot probably. Oh yeah, no problem. Drive her right up. Ramps are for sissies.
Got about an hour's drive to Massachusetts. That might be an issue.
Just, I mean...
When you don't use enough.
Whoops, that's a lot of metal studs. There's that big parking lot over here.
the back, Jack. So I do believe we might be at the new resting place. For Crusty. Yeah, it looks like a nice accommodations. What's your opinion, sir?
I love it here.
Yeah.
I'd want to stay here.
Oh, look at that. Isn't that fitting? Just get set up.
I can't complain about that.
Nice. Inside? Yeah. This is very forgiving, illuminating, wonderful. I mean, look how that car, it's luminescent.
This is Sheldon. Sheldon is the curator for the Lars Anderson Auto Museum.
We are absolutely thrilled that Darren has loaned not only the museum, but the general public that will be coming to these exhibits, or this exhibit, excuse me, over the course of the next few months. Something is only original once, and that is great patina, and it doesn't come easy, preservation. So we are thrilled to be using this as an example of what one would do to preserve the vehicle. And this is just an outstanding example of originality. So thank you, Darren.
Oh, thank you. And what's it going to be called?
This is Hidden Treasures from New England Collections, seldom seen.
Nice, nice. And this is, it's going to be in two sections, correct?
Sure.
Where the other one is going to be Vehicles of Necessity?
Yep, Born of Necessity.
Born of Necessity.
Is the back gallery, and that is about how trucks, as a segment of the car world, went from a very basic utilitarian thing where a car was converted into a pickup truck just of necessity, and then leading to the pickup truck being the largest selling vehicle in America, the Ford F-150, that is. But
That one right there.
yep, exactly, and it's part of the American consciousness. Pickup trucks have their utilitarian purpose, but they have an aesthetic appeal for men, women, children, certainly commercial vehicles, but it's part of America, frankly, the pickup truck. And this is yet another example.
Again, I thank you very much. I really appreciate it. It's an honor to have my rusty, crusty truck going big time.
Well, it's not only our honor, but it's our privilege, Darren, because as important as the vehicle is, the person behind it is the real story. So we thank you.
Oh, thanks again. I appreciate it.
Of course.
All right, sir, we have an empty trailer. I think a driver's coming. I'll just ride here.
Well, guys, that is it. If you haven't figured it out, yes, definitely my truck is just on loan. I did not give my truck away. What are you, crazy? Did you think I was gonna give my truck away and sell it? So I get it back in about a year, but it does get to go on display. If any of you guys want to go check it out, you can go to the Lars Anderson Auto Museum in Brookline, Mass, and it'll be on display there for the 2021-2022 season. I guess in April I get it back. So till then, I'll see you guys soon on another project. Toodaloo.